But you were supposed to continue the communication.
I don't play by your rules.
Arrived at the Airbnb. Kylor says he's working. I don't know. He ain't working, he's right there. Look at that fool.
What's up, man?
What's up, buddy?
I'm a little potent. You can spit it out if you need to.
No, I need to do it in phases.
Yeah, I have to. She's like, my eyes, I'm crying. It's fine.
Welcome to Eastern.
Shot king.
So this is
Shot king.
So this must be like how they do in Washington. They were not better than us. You watch your games? Teamwork.
The money I just need to save for grad school.
Oh man, what are you doing?
Dallas Blonde.
It stays stale.
You can do it at JSU.
Or is it the only one I opened?
Super fat.
We're on an hour.
Spring cocktails.
Woo! To the playoffs.
To the playoffs. And all you did was go 3 hours away. I know, it's been a movie. Alright, we good? It's called Snacks. Baseball swung that shit out of that one. The Gravity might win. Salute.
Cheers it up, boys.
Hey!
Let's go.
Dude. Well, I only got so many games, bro.
Dude, amazing.
Oh, I thought for sure that's what I was going. I ran out of water to kick.
Yes, sir.
If it's like this,
We're all good.
yeah.
I'll grab a cue.
Bison rib.
Bison rib. Look at this sucker. Oh.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
That's man meat right there.
Oh, you're Kylor.
You don't have to hold your tongue out.
I just thought you were an Oxford reference. No,
That's weird.
You look like everybody else in here except for that.
Hey, chill. Okay. Your college transfer that I'm high on.
Oh, this is gonna be nice and tight. Junior over, Fans Nation.
official podcast of FCS Fans Nation, with your hosts Kylor Neal, Matthew Frazee, and Jamie Williams.
FCS Fans Nation. Everybody's ready for Selection Sunday, especially the Bobcats, and everybody else is nervous as heck. Welcome. We are live on the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful November 24th, Selection Sunday. Nearly 200 of you already here. Incredible. Thank you so much for joining Kylor, Jamie, and I. We are pumped to have you guys over this next hour and a half. If you're just joining us and you're like, I don't want to just stare at these people's faces, I want to watch the selection show, you are in luck. You do not have to put on anything else to be able to watch the selection show. We will have it streamed right here for you live the entire time. You don't have to listen to the ESPN pundits. You don't have to listen to them talk about Alabama losing to Oklahoma. You don't have to listen to any FBS junk. You can see the comments from FCS fans, interact with us, and enjoy the live stream. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Number one place to catch what the playoff bracket's going to look like. Jamie and Kylor, we're going to have some special guests over the next hour and a half. We're going to have some reaction fun. We, of course, are going to have comments flying in left and right from FCS Fans Nation. They're already starting to flow in. Jamie, it's the big day. We get to go down to 24 teams. How we feeling, dude?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited. There's 3 or 4 questions in my mind of how the committee's going to go in a few places. I think number 1's kind of settled in, but 2, 3, and 4, a lot of intrigue. Who's that 8 seed or 9 seed? A lot of intrigue. Who's going to get that last seed to host next week at 16? And then who are your last 4 in? I think there's probably 10 teams for those 4 spots. A couple of them are, I think, pretty solid, and then we'll see who goes from there. It's going to be pretty interesting. Just so people know, Kylor and I did not talk before this podcast. We just happened to wear the same stuff.
I was going to say, I'm so annoyed by this. I bet you if you go on all the podcasts this season, what's the over and under in us dressing the exact same 5 times? Like, Jesus. Jamie, I mean, I love you as a person, but can we not FaceTime every morning at 7 a.m. and discuss our outfits?
Well, we gotta, let Matt stand out.
Are you hinting at this because this is the 1 and 2 seed?
I didn't get the hint apparently because I'm wearing the Chattanooga stuff. Walk on Apparel shout out because this is a 6 shirt, even though I don't think they should be in the playoff field. Guys, Kylor, I'll give you a chance here. We're going to talk over the next 20 minutes as we build up to the selection show, just about where we currently stand and what we should expect to see when these selections come through. Before we do that, just again, a shout out to all you guys who are coming in to join with us. Montana Parlay, sorry about the money you lost on NDSU yesterday. That Vegas line flipped for you last second. Preston Adams, James Madison Duke, but still with us. He says we have some real intrigue this year. Yes, we do. We have a lot of mystery in some certain seeding areas. And Seth Meyer, spot on. Thank you again for the hat, Seth. He says at least there's no arguments about the seeds this year. It's just cut and dry. Like we know exactly what's going to be happening. So, and we'll go into Austin's question here about NAU. But before we do, Kylor, let's talk about the overall picture. What is the intrigue this year besides the fact that 16 teams are seeded, that these fans, 300 plus that have joined us now, should be thinking about as we are going to be streaming this show live?
Yeah, there's a couple things that we probably want to touch base on. And of course, the biggest topic of discussion last night was who's going to get the 2, 3, 4. Normally, that's pretty cut and dry on who's going to get those top 4 seeds. This one makes it a little interesting because of the ties, right? I don't think we've ever seen a 3-way tie in the top of the Missouri Valley since I've been covering probably FCS football. If we have, I don't remember. But then the other thing is, like Jamie said, there's quite a bit of people on the discussion for the bubble. And typically when we're seeing an 11-game schedule, it's like if you're not in the Missouri Valley or Big Sky and you don't have more than 7 wins, you're not really in the playoffs. Well, the bubble was so big this year, and I think a lot of people kind of crapped a goose egg at the end of the season to where we're talking about a lot of 7-win teams on a 12-game schedule. That's kind of unfortunate, right? When we have 24 teams in the playoffs, that probably means there's really not 24 deserving teams if we have an extra game and we're discussing from these conferences to 7 wins cut it. When in an 11-game schedule, typically 7 wins don't cut it. right? So that is kind of the interesting feat. So I'm excited. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of question marks answered, especially because it seems like this year they've changed a couple things in the committee room, where we were pretty good the last few years on drilling down exactly what we're supposed to expect, because there was almost like a criteria of here's what we look out for. Well, now when they say they're bringing in the analytics to the table, right? They're looking at Massey, Sagergy, and a few of these other analytics. Well, if you think about those polls, those have a historic value, right? Because the preseason is really reflected because of the last few seasons. So it really gives you a little bit of a, I don't know if it's, floaties to begin the season, where it gives you a kind of a boost based off of the previous seasons. But you're looking at some of these analytics and it's not as cut and dry anymore. Based off of resume, NDSU is a 2. And I'm sure we'll talk to that. Based off the analytics, Massey, Sagergan are showing South Dakota State as 1. Right? So that's where it gets kind of exciting. I get we're talking differences of only 2 seeds, and maybe it's not that important in the grand scheme of things. But when you're in the Missouri Valley and every single one of those top 3 teams won at home versus the other, I think home field is pretty damn important. So that's where this is really exciting to kind of watch, and I'm excited. But yeah, good, fun, horrible football season.
I like, from an Eastern fan, of course. I like
the grand scheme of 7-win bum teams that we're talking about have an opportunity.
Hey, if you got 24 teams in the field, we tend to always get to that, should they even be in moment. But Kylor, I like what you said there in terms of what is going to possibly be different. The committee is going to show us what the future looks like unless they change it again, because I'm almost repeating you, but I have to. In the past, it would be so easy, I think, to go 10 FCS wins for NDSU. Strength of schedule difference from SDSU, 2 or 3 slots. Overall, though, head-to-head matchup, NDSU, right? More ranked wins at the time, more ranked wins currently, NDSU. Those are like metrics to stand by and staples that would be easy to predict, except for the random outliers we had. But the analytics, which have not been clear and cut, and a lot of the data and stats that people have been throwing out, points given up, points earned, differentials, that stuff comes into play. It might tilt SDSU into favor, because that's really the question. And it also, an undefeated Montana State, even if the analytics say SDSU is not going to be the one. Undefeated Montana State, the intrigue happens after that. Jamie, before we get into some fan questions over the next 15, 20 minutes in our build-up here, talk a little bit about, if you could, the intriguing seeding spots or the spots amongst the field. Everyone's talking 2, 3, 4 right now. Beyond that, what's going to be interesting for you to see?
Yeah, I'll go past the 2, 3, 4 right now, because we could beat that to death, and honestly, I could make a case for all 3 to be at 2. My case for South Dakota would be a little bit softer, but I could make certainly the case for the Dakota States at 2 and the other one at 3. So let's talk about from there. I think at 5 you're going to have UC Davis. I think they're pretty well locked in, and then 6, 7 feels like Idaho Mercer. So the next spot that you get to a little bit of what's it going to look like is that 8 seed. And I think my opinion is it's down between 2 teams, and it's down between Incarnate Word and Richmond is the other team. And Richmond coming in on a heater, 10 straight wins. They come off of a shutout yesterday of William & Mary. Incarnate Word was in the committee's top 10 a few weeks ago. So, they're going to be in that discussion. They do have a win over Northern Arizona, which is aged really well. A couple of their, they played well against South Dakota State. The loss to Southern Illinois doesn't age as well. Richmond's loss to Wofford doesn't look very good. But to me, eye test tells me that Richmond should be the 8 seed. They beat Delaware, who actually Villanova beat yesterday, which I think slides Villanova into that 9 to 16 range somewhere. 11 to 13 probably for Villanova. So I think they're going to lock themselves in with that win rather than putting themselves on the bubble. And then kind of you're looking at, so from the teams hosting next week, I would say Incarnate Word, it could be Richmond. Rhode Island, definitely going to host next week. You can almost book Central Connecticut State there. Villanova, you can book Lehigh there. So back to the point that Kylor's made since we started this podcast, the CAA teams that are going to host are going to get very, very soft draws. Montana, I think, is still going to be a seed, maybe in the 14-15 range. Illinois State, I think they should be a seed. The problem with them is they can't host a game. So are they going to go play at Drake? Somewhere like that? Because that regionality, that's the regionality. I still think Abilene Christian, despite getting smoked by SFA yesterday, is still a top 16 seed as well as Tarleton. So who's the 16th seed? Is it SEMO from winning the Big South OVC? Although they come in really cold. They haven't looked very good. And then you're getting to those last bubble teams. I think it's SEMO just because the rest of the bubble is a little softer. If Northern Arizona gets in, the metrics really like Northern Arizona. So could they get a 16? I don't know. Probably not. But you got teams like Eastern Kentucky, UT Martin versus Tennessee State. I think one of them gets in, one gets left out. Head-to-head was UT Martin. Tennessee State beat SEMO. So you got the same kind of round-robin stuff there. Chattanooga, Western Carolina, head-to-head was Western Carolina. Do one of them get in? Do they just have one SoCon team in? I'm not sure there. Then you're looking at, then Southern Utah still has an argument. The metrics actually like Southern Utah. Sagarin and Massey like Southern Utah. I think they get a bump for their win over UTEP. I think their resume is stronger than it looks. I think they're right on the bubble. I'm hoping they get in, but they might and probably are going to be that first team out, maybe the second team out. And then there's New Hampshire. I think they've easily played themselves into this field. I really do. I think they played themselves in Eastern Kentucky as well. Eastern Kentucky, they did lose to Southern Utah by 21, but they also beat Tarleton. Had a comeback win yesterday that almost probably knocked them off the bubble. So that end of the bracket is going to be really, really exciting.
And it's going to be interesting because, like you mentioned, Tennessee State, and that little comment was just down there as well, right? If you ask Zach McKinnell, who I think is the best brain in all of FCS football, he said it would be a travesty to let them out. And at the end of the day, they have 9 Division I wins, but their strength of schedule is like 88, right? So we're going to see what the committee really does value, just because the strength of schedule is not good. They did the Big South and OVC kind of together, and they were one of the top teams, and they had a phenomenal win this last weekend. I mean, this really just helped push them into that discussion, but it's an 88 strength of schedule. Are you going to take
wound up
a
actually
team like
84?
An 84. So are you going to take Southern Utah that has, 2 less wins, Division 1 wins, and are you going to take Tennessee State, right? Or are you going to take NAU, who has 2 less Division 1 wins because the strength of schedule is higher? So it is going to be kind of interesting to see, because I actually think Tennessee State probably has a better win than any of those other teams, right? That we're just talking about, Southern Utah and NAU. Tennessee State's win yesterday was a better win than anyone probably on their bracket. But again, the strength of schedule is 88. And then when they played another, other FCS, playoff team outside of their own conference, it was North Dakota State, and they lost by like 50, but that's okay. That happens even to playoff teams. So I'm
first time.
It's interesting.
It's going to be fun. Before we get into the fan questions for the next 15 minutes, guys, and we're going to get to the selection show. It'll be live here. Don't go anywhere, even through our shameless plugs. But hey, people ask about this all the time. Boom, the FCS Bracket Challenge. It is back with FCS Fans Nation. Now, here's the thing. It's exclusive to people through FCS Gold, but there's a caveat there. Don't freak out at us about 99 cents a month. You only have to pay the 99 cents a month 1 month to be part of the FCS Bracket Challenge. So with that, we're not just giving away a $15 team hat. We're giving away a $50 Visa gift card prize. You'll be able to submit your bracket within this next week before kickoff on Friday, Saturday of the games, and you'll actually be able to compete for a $50 grand prize. Right now through FCS Gold, we have about 78, 79 members total. So your odds of winning this are pretty incredible. So all you have to do is find on Twitter and Facebook the post that I've put up about the FCS Bracket Challenge, join FCS Gold for 99 cents, then immediately cancel a day later. I don't care. That'll get you through the rest of the season. And then your 99 cents bet gives you a chance to participate, have fun, get everything FCS Gold gets you, which is the ad-free stuff and everything else, but also be part of the Bracket Challenge. We'd love to have more people involved in it. And right now, odds are pretty good if you decide to jump in. So FCS Bracket Challenge, you'll hear about it a few times throughout this show. And pushing almost 350 people here. We really appreciate you guys joining us. I'm not going to stop saying it. We're going to see this live together. So
one other point I did want to make is I want to see how you finished. How much does that matter? Because there are teams like SEMO that came in cold. They're in. But think about Tennessee State closed hot. Like Southern Utah, closed hot. They won 4 of their last 5 with a 3-point loss to Tarleton. There's a lot. Richmond 10 in a row. So does that help them in the seeding? So is how you are playing coming into the tournament going to matter versus some of these teams? I was trying to think. There was a team that like New Hampshire. They're hot coming in, winning 2 strong games at the end. But Stony Brook, I didn't even mention Stony Brook. Why? Because they lost their 2 last games and they didn't look good doing it. They've got the win totals that you would be looking for, but they come in cold. So I left them out. We'll see.
Yeah. And that's where I want to get into the fan questions.
Stephen McKenzie's also got a good point about Eastern Kentucky. They're coming in hot, 5 straight conference wins after getting stopped by Southern Utah. So they're
great point. And on that, Jamie, and with Stephen, this goes into a good question I saw previously. First off, I apologize. Jamie is forcing us to watch a Sunbelt sport, at least something involved with it. He wanted this court shown for at least the first 15 minutes.
No, we're watching a WCC game with a former Eastern coach, Shante Legans, getting destroyed, and maybe he should have stayed at Eastern.
Wow, somebody's ready for basketball.
Just saying.
Moly. Jeepers. In all seriousness, in Steven's comment in a previous question, who's the team that's not going to get in that you guys think that's going to make you upset? Who's going to get in that's going to make you upset? One way or the other. Jamie, who's someone who you could see getting left out where you're like, I honestly think they should have been in that field?
Well, yeah, if you ask it that way, I'm not sure. I think if you left out, I don't know, if you leave out New Hampshire, I would be surprised. But if you're going to talk from a personal level, you leave out Southern Utah, I'm going to be pretty upset. But I would also understand. I'm really hoping they get in. You know, I've been on Southern Utah this year. Had time to go out there. So I'm hoping they get in. I'm stumping for them. Stumping for Targi Lamson for the Walter Payton, leading the country in rushing and second in touchdowns. But yeah, who do I think might get in that should be left out?
It's kind of a tough
Northern Arizona, just because like the metrics love them. But what's their good win? Is Eastern yesterday their best win of the year? I think it is. So to me, Northern Arizona is not a playoff team, but the metrics love them. So I do think they're probably going to get in.
Actually, Dustin Helton here, the Rev, might join us later. Stay tuned, folks. He has a comment there about SLU. And then this one right here, UT Martin, this is actually my pick. And we did it on the selection show. UT Martin winning 7 of the last 8, FBS win, highest power rating of OVC Big South. It is a no-brainer. But that would surprise me just because I'm looking at Kylor's tweet here on Twitter. Make sure you follow Kylor EPH on Twitter. You know, he kind of had the locks for the playoffs, the obvious ones. And, you know, a second team coming out of that Big South OVC. Is that a lock, Kylor, as much, or could you see UT Martin actually not being in there?
I think the Big South is getting 2 teams. Okay. And again, it's like what Jamie said. It's probably between Tennessee State and it is between UT Martin. I think right now there's so much chaos because Stony, I agree with Jamie. That one probably isn't a lock based off of all wins and because the rest of the FCS didn't do so well. When I was putting this together, quick yesterday, I kind of put them in because they at least had the wins. But yeah, it's how you finish. The last few days, last few weeks hasn't been that great, right? So maybe they're going to be more on the bubble instead of a lock, which would free up another space. But if you scroll down, I don't know if you can, in the comments, I did quite a bit of there's 10, 11 bubble teams that are fighting for those last 3 to 4 spots. So I do think UT Martin probably deserves to. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
Yes, it will. Fans right now, you guys are commenting like crazy. This is phenomenal as we're pushing 400 live viewers. Appreciate you guys all being here. We've got about 11 minutes before the show actually starts. So any clear-cut questions? Some of these comments are phenomenal, by the way. Kevin wants to know if we've basically taken Incarnate Word out for dinner yet because we love them so much. Montana Hoyt's got a good comment here, and this is kind of what we're going to see, the difference between analytics or what was in the past. NDSU has 10 D1 wins. SDSU and USD don't. So is that going to be a difference maker? We don't know this year because of how those analytics will go.
Can I comment on Kevin's comment real quick?
Yeah.
I think last week I said Incarnate Word isn't very good, but the difference is they were in the top 10 of the committee multiple weeks ago and they haven't lost. They're probably still going to be in the top 10 of the committee. I mean, that's just being a realistic take. But I don't think they're really a top 8 team. We'll have to see when it's all said and done.
It's going to be interesting. And yeah, Califin, there you go, out for dinner. You see how I did, you like how I did that? That was a nice little church up for Kevin. All right.
Now that we
Thanks,
buried
guys,
the
for the
lead, do we want to talk about the 2, 3, 4?
Yeah, I would love to
Anybody wanna make
talk
a
2, 3,
prediction?
4. Quick shot here to Kelly. Thanks for the show. He says, we do appreciate that, guys. We this one means a lot to us. We've done it for I think upwards to 5 years, even more than the mock playoff special, and that we just really are passionate about this episode because ESPN and the pundits and all these humans, they just do not care about, like they're just paid to talk FCS. We love giving everybody a spot to come and discuss this actual playoff bracket that we care about. It's a tight-knit community. We love it. We get annihilated by copyright infringement from this episode. So the pennies our YouTube episodes usually make, which is not a lot, we sacrifice those down to 0 because we want a nice spot where everybody can stream it, enjoy it, and we just love it. So that being said, yeah, let's go into that 2, 3, 4 discussion, Jamie. The big pundits, most of them, I saw Sam Herder thought SDSU, your Craig Haley's thinking NDSU. Nobody seems to be giving USD 3 or 2 love. Break it down for us. Break us down 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. The funny thing is Sam changed his mind probably 3 times before he actually posted because he and I were chatting back and forth a little bit last night. He actually had made an argument for South Dakota for a minute. I think it would be a recency bias kind of thing. I did make the comment that I felt like South Dakota's win of that round robin was the cleanest. And I'm going to make excuses for a couple teams, but at the end of the day, the win is the win. So South Dakota got out hot, finished hot. You can call it poor coaching by Polisek and company, but they went and won that game clean. South Dakota State, North Dakota State, them not at least reviewing that pass on the sideline at the 4-yard line, big miss. I think he was out, but it was real close, and they should have reviewed that. So who knows what happens from there? South Dakota losing at South Dakota State or versus South Dakota State. I think it was in Brookings, actually. It was.
Yep.
Aiden Bauman had to come out of the game for a play. Guess what happened on the next play? Drop, snap, lost 6 yards, and that set up that field goal that they missed at the end. So that's why I say it's the cleanest win. But at the end of the day, Cam Miller made the plays on a drive to win a football game.
Jamie,
Mark Gronowski, yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to cut you in here with this captain comment. Just South Dakota could have been the 2 if the whooping cough hadn't hit Portland. Is that actually true? Is there going to be that much impact from that?
I think the impact is probably more on the fact that they played Northern State than this game. I hate that it happened. I think you could have booked that as a win. I don't think it's enough to say that's what cost them the 2. I do think South Dakota is going to be locked in at the 4.
I think that's actually losing that Portland game. So that's where I disagree with you. Everything else I agree. But we're talking about potentially, I think we're all under the assumption South Dakota is probably the 4 when we're all guesstimating right here because, two less Division I wins. That is a real factor, right? Yeah. But we are really a little bit of a toss-up on this North Dakota State, South Dakota State. Now, I think if it was last year's committee, we would know what to do. This year, it makes it a little interesting with the analytics. But South Dakota State has a D2 win as well, right? So I actually think South Dakota not playing Portland State is a bigger factor because if they play Portland State, they're winning Portland State. Portland State's trash.
Fair.
And then all of a sudden, they're in the same boat as a South Dakota State NDSU one, but their only losses in overtime. So now I think that 2, it makes more sense to have them at the 2 if they beat Portland State, and they would have. So I think that's actually a little bit more of a
I buy that. I buy that. Yeah, I think you're probably actually right. I buy that. I changed my mind. It matters.
Good argument.
Yeah, winning, baby. But this 2, 3, 4 is super exciting because home field is very important. Again, like I said in the very beginning, every home team has won, and each one of these games has been extremely close. I actually think North Dakota was kind of the better team in this game last night. I get South Dakota started off hot, but I think overall North Dakota was the better team. But I also think in that South Dakota State versus North Dakota State game, South Dakota State was the overall better team when you watch that game from top to bottom. So it's interesting. I think pretty much, I don't know. Yeah, almost every team that won was the worst team of that day. So it's kind of fun to see. But yeah, who are you guessing for the number 2 seed, Matt?
So it's prediction time.
It's prediction time because we only got a minute, 2 minutes, something like that.
5 minutes, something like that.
I can. Everything to me says NDSU, but I think the analytics are going to steer heavy of where they want to go with this in the future. And I think it's going to be Montana State 1, SDSU 2, NDSU 3, and USD 4. So I'm confident in USD at the 4. Everyone knows MSUM's the 1. And I know UC Davis isn't jumping any of them. But if I have to pick, I think SDSU with the analytics at the end of how this thing finished, as crazy as that sounds, of what they're going off of now, I think SDSU gets a small bump in edge. So, Kylor, your prediction. What do you think?
So I have two different ways. If I'm doing my seedings, I'm going Montana State, South Dakota State, North Dakota State, and South Dakota. Now, I actually still think NDSU is going to get the 2 seed. They win just too many metrics in the grand scheme of things. They have an extra Division I win. Their out of conference schedule was harder. They played Colorado, who is a damn good team, extremely close. That looks different on paper than getting blown out by Oklahoma State, right? They played, yeah. I don't know. I think it's just that head-to-head is going to matter when the resumes are so close to each other, and it's not 2 wins difference. So I think you're going to have to give the nod to NDSU, even though I personally would want South Dakota State as a 2. So I think it'll go, 1 MSU, 2 NDSU, 3 South Dakota State, 4 South Dakota.
And just being honest, I think a lot of people would have faith, and this doesn't give the Jacks any solace in all of this, but I think people think the Jacks can go up to Fargo and win. And I don't think anyone thinks NDSU has a very good shot if they have to go out cold in Brookings in December, where they have not been successful. Jamie, your final prediction for 2, 3, 4, because that's what people want to see, because the selection show is kicking off in about 120 seconds.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with NDSU at the 2. It's a stronger argument than I thought for South Dakota State before, but I think I'm going to stick with NDSU. The funny thing with if you want to get into conspiracy theories, it's they played in Fargo, so let's flip it. So if they play in Brookings. But I'll tell you the one thing that's not going to matter, and that's this right here. Doesn't mean a damn thing. I really don't think that means a damn thing.
Yeah, he goes the NDSU AD, the stuff like that, guys. Come on, they leave the room. They're not allowed to vote on their own teams. This happens every year of ADs from different schools. It's not going to play any sort of factor. Big shout out here before we get into the selection show. I'm going to go back and share our playoff bracket challenge. Shout out to Marshall Taylor. Thanks for joining FCS Gold, at least for a day. Congratulations, Marshall. 99 cents, and you can participate with the FCS bracket challenge that we are putting on again. A chance to win $50. Submit your own personal bracket in FCS Gold on the pages on Patreon. Literally, you can pay 99 cents and then cancel your subscription the next day, and you are in the FCS bracket challenge. There's only about 80 people now. Chance to win $50 and a fun way to see how this goes. Okay, so make sure you hop on that. With that, we're about 60 seconds away. Kylor, final thoughts before the selection show starts rolling in.
Man, this is the first selection show where I'm not confident where things are going to fall. We've been pretty damn accurate the last 4 or 5 years, where we're getting 23 of 24 teams, all the seeds correct, maybe slightly different order on a couple of them, but it's been a very accurate, and it always seems like it was very easy to pick. This is that first year where I'm looking at it going, I don't know who's going to be the 8 seed. I don't know who's going to be the last 2 bubble teams. I actually don't know. I don't know now, since we're seeding 16 seeds. Are you going to give Montana a 13, 14, 15, or are you going to boost them up to an 11? I have no clue what's going to happen. And this is the first time I'm actually kind of excited about, the playoff committee and what they're going to reveal. And I'm sure this is going to be the first time there's things where I'm going to completely disagree with that I have a hard time making an argument for. But that's the beautiful thing about, the FCS playoffs. And guess what? If you want to be in it, win your games. Win your games. Make it no doubt. There's too many people that left doubt at the end of this year to where, guess what? If you're out of the playoffs and you think you deserve to be there, schedule harder in the out of conference. Stop scheduling 2 FBS teams. Stop scheduling in D2 and just win your games you're supposed to win. That's the reality of the business.
100%.
I agree with Markham. I do think everyone sucks this year.
I do think that's the thing. It's everybody that gets left out and is complaining, you're going to be able to point and say, yeah, but if you had won that game where you lost them, you shouldn't have, you would be in. I could do it for every team, I think. Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Welcome. We're at 498. It's about to be 500 people. Thank you all, 500 of you. I'm just going to call it. Joining us right now on the FCS Selection Show. You get to watch it live on ESPN through us and not listen to those pundits who don't care. And
Look at all those watch parties.
look at those watch parties. Beautiful.
Oh man, UC Davis's room looks so much better than everyone
All of those
else's. Everyone
teams are
else
in.
needs to step up their crap.
Yeah.
You got
if-
someone watching it in a hotel, and then you got UC Davis.
Well, I'll
show-
tell you, it's not a hotel at Tarleton because they don't have big enough hotels to host a full team. So
Ayo.
they have two, and that came straight from people from Tarleton, by the way.
Now
They need
here's
to
the three
show-
people who do not know what any conference is in the FCS. So I love it. This is beautiful. This is
At least
beautiful
Jay
to
Walker's
watch.
not there.
Yep. Hey, the nice thing about this whole situation is if they show the watch parties for USD, SDSU, NDSU, they actually cut the trophy in thirds. And each of them, they put the trophy in front of the watch party, like to show off. They'll each have 1/3 of it just sitting there. It'll look amazing.
How shocked are you going to be when they go Montana State, not the 1 seed?
Honestly, Seth Meyer said it on here. He goes, listen, 2022 Montana State got the screw job of being the 4 while NDSU got the 3. That was actually accurate based off resume. And he's like, wouldn't shock me if it went that way. I think it does because an FBS win, 12-0, they have an FBS win. Their
2 more
strength
wins than
schedule
anyone
up
else.
there.
It's a lock.
So it's not here. This is the part of the selection show, guys, where the people hosting on ESPN, they're learning right now. They're learning, there's 24 teams and 16 teams will be seeded, so this is their opportunity to know what's going
FCS
on.
for dummies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Last second crazy predictions, guys. UC Davis, Ron says, has over 40,000 students.
UC Davis is again, I've said this about 5 years ago. If they wanted to be Power 5, they could be a monster at this level. They have boosters, they have investment, they have facilities. They could do whatever the hell they want in a great recruiting area.
Okay, here we go. Oh my gosh, Montana.
Idaho, the number 1.
Montana
Oh,
State.
shit.
Oh.
All right.
All right. So
Okay,
they're going
guys.
straight from the top. I thought they I was hoping they would go like backwards. So they leave.
No, I think they always do the tops. This one,
I know.
easiest
I was
pick of the
hoping they'd
day.
switch it up. Yep.
We're probably 10 seconds away, guys. This is what's going to shock the world of where we're going. Who's number 2? There they are.
Bison.
North Dakota State University.
For
Bison.
everybody all week that has been arguing with me that if NDSU
Wins.
lost, that they would be the 3. Is SU's going to pass them? I was right about NDSU last year. Guess who was right about NDSU this year? Me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean,
That's my
at
arrogant
the end of
comment
the
of
day,
the day.
I get South Dakota State's D1 team canceled on them, but it is what it is. I mean, that D2 team does hurt. It is what it is.
It is going to set up.
God,
unless-
those are the coolest helmets, though. I love those.
God,
Going back to Fargo.
God bless the other teams, but it's going to be very likely that we see that marker battle be a
South
repeat.
Dakota and then UC Davis, correct? I mean, that's just how it's going to go.
It's got to be
And then after UC Davis, Idaho.
Idaho, Mercer, and then we'll see at 8.
Fair enough. I think I agree with you.
And there we go. The number 4 seed South Dakota Coyotes. While we have 20 seconds, Kylor, again, if they had played that extra FCS game, you think they are even maybe the 3 or 2?
I think they'd have an argument to be the. I don't know. They would have an argument for sure. I think North Dakota State still gets number 2 because that extra win.
It's hard to play what if now.
So then you would go to the head-to-head, and you're probably still having the exact same top 4.
Right.
Are they going to spread it out?
Here we go.
There's your top 4. It's kind of
what
actually what
most of the
straightforward.
media pundits were thinking.
it's what I expected, so I'm fine with it. Obviously.
And it's resume based. So
Let's
that's
look
what
at-
I like. Again, they have different tools that they can use every single year, and it seems like it changes every single year. It used to be the coaches poll. What a horrible tool. Now they're using analytics, and some of those are horrible. But again, they're doing the smart thing, looking at resume. At the end of the day, you need to win more games, and strength of schedule is huge. So I am kind of, I want to see what the bubble looks like, because that's where it's really, does that 9-win Tennessee State look good, or does the 84 strength of schedule look bad?
Look bad.
That's what I'm kind of curious on. Do they
We'll
get that
find
jump
out.
over at NAU or Southern Utah?
Here we
who
go.
has 2 less wins. Yep. Idaho.
No,
UC Davis
Davis.
and then
Davis.
Idaho.
Then Idaho.
That's what we said.
Yep.
So who's the prediction for 7 if we think Idaho is next?
Mercer.
Yeah, I agree with Jamie.
Mercer's coming through.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
could see, was Incarnate Word above Mercer to begin with in that poll?
No.
Okay.
I think
I don't remember from 5 weeks ago.
There you go.
There they
Oh,
go.
baby.
Incarnate Word with the 6.
Andrew
I'm
Markham.
very
There
shocked.
you go.
Very shocked. I think that's a significant overseed.
Wow.
So I
but
think
you
we're
know
going to
what?
go. they jumped those too. I think we're going
But
to go.
those are my
Idaho.
favorite. The Andrew Markham is my favorite person in all of the FCS world, even over you two. So I'm happy for that guy. I think that guy's awesome. You guys suck.
Wow, Mercer at the 7.
Mercer takes
Idaho
the
is
7.
Idaho is kind of getting hosed in this. Are they going to send them to Bozeman in the quarters?
What
Potentially.
is it?
That does suck.
Maybe just losing to Oregon close is not weighted as heavy as a lot of us
Yeah,
have
they
said.
No,
I think the fact that they have 3 losses has hurt them, despite what the top 10 said. I'm not a big fan of
There
this.
you go. So this is very important to point out, guys, that with these top 8 seeds, these are the buys. These are the ones that get to rest this coming Thanksgiving weekend. So the Vandals, at least at number 8, get to rest up there, and sets up a possible chance for them to go to Montana State.
I think even Incarnate Word fans are shocked that they're seated above Idaho. Maybe not that they're seated above Mercer, but that they got a nod above Idaho. I think that is kind of a shock.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. Well, anything, I mean, Incarnate Word seems to be the big one, Jamie, that you would be like, I don't know about that. It sets up a rematch possibility, too, with them going to South Dakota State when you look at the whole map. I think that's super interesting.
They need
everything else looked pretty cut and dry. Pretty cut and dry besides that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a significant overseed for Incarnate Word. I'm trying to figure out what are they valuing that makes Incarnate Word
what they're probably
over, especially over Mercer.
How they could see this is, maybe they played a common opponent, right? NAU. Now Idaho was extremely injured, but Incarnate Word blew the brakes off NAU, where Idaho struggled and came out with a close win. So if you're looking at maybe here's the only head-to-head matchup they had where we can compare the two teams, you probably would favor Incarnate Word over Idaho. That's the only thing where I'm trying to think outside the box and see where they put that value. Because they blew out like NAU by 20 something points.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking that I'm not sure, because you're looking at this and Massey ratings, Idaho's 6, Incarnate Word's 8. Strength of schedule, Idaho's 6, Incarnate Word's 50.
Right.
I would flip those two and then I'd be fine.
I think they're looking at the common opponent. I mean, in that regards, they looked at and honestly, the Southland beat the shit out of the Big Sky this year. It is a reality. Now, a lot of them weren't good teams, but who cares? They still have a winning record over the Big Sky. The Big Sky sucked this year.
Yeah, there's Brent, there's Mr. Vegan, Coach Vegan. What do we think about Montana State now? We think that they're, based off what you've seen on the 8 seeds, do you think that they're going to be able to run all the way to Frisco? You got much
I think they're the most complete team in the FCS.
I don't think a healthy Idaho beats Montana State and Bozeman. It sucks. You got to have those two teams play each other because I thought, I would rather have Idaho play someone else. But I mean, Montana State, they just look like a different beast, especially in Bozeman on that side of the bracket.
Yeah. My guess is they'll go to commercial and come back and talk to us about the 9 through 16.
So let's look forward, because people want to know, they're watching our show to know what's coming ahead, not what they're talking about with these things. What are we looking now where you were talking about that selective, interesting area? What are we looking at for 9, 10, 11? Who is on your guys' radar to be these next seeds up?
Richmond.
It feels like Richmond has to be the 9.
Yeah.
They have to be the 9 there. They're probably hoping they're the 10, because I'm sure they'd rather go play down in Mercer in the quarterfinals than have to travel out to Idaho. But I think
Richmond and Rhode Island are going to.
I think you might be looking at a CAA run coming in the next 3.
I think there's a very good possibility. I don't know who else I'd put above. I mean, maybe you could throw a Tarleton or an ACU somewhere in between the mix. But right now, I think it's got to be Richmond and then probably Rhode Island right back to back.
Yeah.
Going to go CAA right off that. That would split them up too. Ron says Cats have only lost 1 game at home since 2019, 32-1 at home. That's a bonkers stat, by the way.
That's wild. Like I keep telling people,
insane.
Especially in our Big Sky or our FCS podcast like chat, I'm like, dude, playing in Bozeman is going to be a difference maker. And some people are like, nah, Montana State sucks, right? Just because they've had the upper hand with them. If you have to travel to Bozeman, good luck. I don't think that's an easy win. I don't think that's an easy game. Even if you're a top 4 team like South Dakota, I bet you there's a lot of Missouri Valley fans that go, oh, South Dakota beat North Dakota State. They can easily go into Bozeman and beat Montana State. I don't think I give me Montana State by 10 plus against South Dakota right now.
Wow. In Bozeman.
In Bozeman, not in Frisco, not in a neutral site, not on the road, but in Bozeman. I like Montana State by 10 plus.
Will be interesting to see. Forgetting Illinois State. Yeah, okay. I've called it Illinois State being not that great of a team has been kind of my call. Where do you think they're going to land here? You think the CAA teams are going to be above them? They could be the 9.
They could split. I think they could split somewhere in the 11, 12. I think they're 13, but if they show up at 11 and 12, I wouldn't be that surprised. Even maybe the 10. But we'll see. I think somebody asked who gets lucky to host. If they're doing it by regionality, they're probably just going to Drake.
Yeah. I hate the fact, though, that like if you're a playoff team in the Big Sky CA or Missouri Valley and you don't play some of the other top teams, that should automatically just kick you out. Like NAU didn't play Montana State or UC Davis. If they play those 2 games, they're not in the playoff discussion. Now, 8 wins are probably going to get in. But again, with Illinois State, you didn't play South Dakota State. South Dakota State, I think we'd all agree, would beat you. So I think you should be penalized and not get as high of a seed. I get that's not the reality because you play what's on your schedule and you just have to win those games. And they did win 9 games, but the Missouri Valley is not as good as it was the last few years. Big Sky sucks as well too. So we're giving those 2 conferences the benefit of the doubt just because of historic reasons. But like there's only 3 to 4 good teams in each one of those conferences this year. It's not like the whole conference from top to bottom is actually good. They're not. So I could see Illinois State maybe splitting between those 2 CAA teams. I kind of forgot about them, but with 9 wins in Missouri Valley, probably going to get somewhere up there.
Dom Izzo just had a pretty good tweet. He said, theme of the top 4, don't play D2s, plain and simple.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree with that.
And that's not South Dakota State's fault. They had the cancellation of Tarleton, I believe. If that is different, we might have seen a different result, but there is something to where I'm glad the basics held in terms of whatever analytics are. So,
but also there was other teams you probably could have played from the Pioneer, the NEC. It seems like some of those teams from the MEAC, from the SWAC, pay some teams and get them in there because half those teams are playing D2 teams anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting with the cancellation. It's hard to know the background of it, but absolutely do whatever you can. And here's the reality of it is, of course, as a Bison fan, that's great. But I think South Dakota State, based off what we saw in the Dome and based off what we've seen the last 5 years, they absolutely can go up to Fargo and win that game. And it's going to be very satisfying if they do. Where, like I said, if it had flipped the other way, I don't know about NDSU going into a cold Brookings and pulling that off. So, okay, let's look at one of the most fabulous teams that everybody loves that kind of got their butts kicked yesterday, the Grizz. Where are the Grizz going? We haven't mentioned the Grizz the whole time. We've got commercial break here. What is the range of 3 seeds, 13 to 15, something like that, where we're going to see them, Kylor?
So I said yesterday, I think 13 to 15 is probably realistic. And at least, that NA win is starting to look good, right? They at least have a win over a playoff caliber team or a bubble team, vice versa. So that looks good. And then they've only lost to the other 3 stud teams. But that North Dakota State loss looks bad. But
North Dakota.
So, I mean, North Dakota, whatever. Yeah, I think 13, 14, 15 is probably realistic. They are going to get a seed. I think they're going to get a top 16. I just don't know where we're at. But they may just schedule all these Big Sky teams to play each other, which will be kind of funny. I hope they do. And I hope none of them gets past the quarters.
Yep. Yeah, they just have not had the season that they had last year, unfortunately. Right. It's better when the Grizz are involved, but yep, it's just clear as day. It's just not a team that's going to come close to the semifinals. They might get to the quarters, but we'll see beyond that. Jamie, UT Martins, our SEMOs, some of those, expect to maybe see them get a sniff of a seed here?
I think SEMO is the one that slides in at the 16, just because I think there's 14 teams that deserve a seed, and then Montana's going to get one, and then who gets the last one? That's how I kind of see it. I think both Abilene Christian and Tarleton also deserve seeds. I think they've had good enough seasons. Abilene Christian would have been in the argument for the 9-10 if they hadn't gotten their butt just hammered yesterday. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It almost looked like they just said, we're in. We're going to pack it in. We're playing against a team with a backup quarterback, and the backup quarterback beat them. So SFA came in with a good win, good finish to their season. Might have saved Carby Carthow's job.
So no doubt. How that goes. Darren Hoff with a great, hilarious comment here. Grizz are not seeded, but host Illinois State.
Could you see that though? Like, honestly, 100%.
they can
like
get their
seed
cake and
Illinois
eat it too.
State at 15 and send Montana there. I could see that. That's kind of like genius. That'd be the thing for the committee to do. Well, Montana still gets their home game, but they're not.
Yeah, we
seeded.
still make some money off the fans and the attendance.
Yep.
Let's do it. I hope they do it.
Ocean
Yeah.
Poet says, have they announced the other seeds,
All
or
right.
did I miss that? They're about to
coming
show
up.
the other seeds. Of course, they're showing
Hopefully.
auto bids and stuff like that.
CCU, the 11. Wild.
Yeah,
They've got.
we have seeds 1 through 8 announced.
This
right,
is
guys,
like
if you're joining
wrong.
They
us.
said
Anyway.
tickets punched.
Yeah, that was wrong because it had Sac State in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're not
I
doing
saw
had
seeds.
Tennessee
Tennessee
State
State,
and
for
Tennessee State, unless they're just telling us something we don't know.
No, I think this is called ESPN not understanding FCS football.
That's about right. I think they probably meant Tarleton. No, yeah, they probably meant no, but Abilene Christian. Who knows?
I just
Well-
don't think they know what they're doing.
Yeah, the problem there, they're showing highlights from Duquesne and Central Tennessee. Prontis threw 7 interceptions yesterday.
Oofta.
Duquesne, not good. I want to just call it. They're going through some auto biz. Congrats. I think Chuck Burton is or was watching earlier.
Yeah.
Congrats to Lehigh. A really good season. They're a solid team. I
And
do
they
think
threw-
they're going to be going to, I think it's 70 miles to Villanova.
Yeah.
Is where they're going to be locked in. I think they might be able to give them some problems.
And guys, this was the stats FCS game of the week. Screw the brawl. Screw North Dakota State with South Dakota. This was the stats FCS game of the week. I can't even put on straight.
As it should
I
be.
get the
Tyler.
rivalry
They
story.
threw the goalpost in a river. It
Look
should
at that.
Be. They
Oh,
took
yeah,
it to
you
a
got
highway.
one
If you haven't
who's
seen it,
2-4 in
Look at that.
conference as a game of the week.
look at this. That's just awesome. Lehigh can afford that too. They can afford to, just
Yeah, see,
break
this is
things.
some of the stuff they were showing. I think they were showing Drake against Stetson. There was Stetson, not Sac State, that I saw.
Yeah,
So,
we've got auto bids rolling in here, guys, in terms of like, hey, where's the
Game
rest
of
of the
the
field
year.
going?
Let's go, Zach.
I think it's a good thing for them to
brightest
cover
mind
it this
in
way to
ball.
let you know this kind of stuff. What it is kind of telling me is we might be, because they actually are going to show SEMO and Tennessee State here, I think. Are they showing one bid conferences? Are they
might.
showing us something in that?
Yep. Right now, SEMO, Tennessee State coming through.
The Tennessee State
very
display
possible.
here was basically a game-winning play.
Look at that.
The Zach McKinnell
What a
special,
play.
Tennessee State, Eddie George. That's a phenomenal play. Hey, give a shout out to Tennessee State. They made the committee make a decision,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all you can ask.
Yeah, the reality is that Tennessee State was on we were doing our mock playoff special, right? And we kind of had them discussion, but very, very small because we were like, okay, probably not going to happen. But then a lot of other things happened this week, and it won't be shocking to see them in there. Also, shout out to them because what they're doing now in the playoff format and things like that to be able to be competitive is just phenomenal. So
Yeah.
big shout out to them. There that we got our automatic bids by the conference. I think everybody there, Abilene Christian, seed range, Jamie? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. 13, 14 area. I think they're still seated. We'll see what these guys are going to yap about for a little bit. They're definitely stretching the show out today. I was also
it's kinda
gonna start
fun.
watching football at 1, but
Yeah, when you look at Tennessee State, it's with Eddie George and what they've done. I'm really impressed by what they got going on. Okay, so of the teams that are remaining that have a chance to go ahead, and they're about to cut me off here because I think they're about to do the seeds, but I'm interested to see who you guys would pick to actually go be competitive and pull some upsets. So Marshall's like, ACU got beat yesterday. Here we go. Montana State, Idaho, UC Davis, and South Dakota. Who is going to be lined up against these opponents?
New Hampshire
this
is 16.
Wow,
New
they're going
Hampshire slides
16.
into 16.
Wow.
Interesting.
Some CAA punishment?
No, that's CAA love. I thought they would be. I mean, they coming in hot.
Yeah.
This honestly makes me nervous that they might put Stony Brook in the field.
The thing about I love that they're doing these seedings because we're not going to have as many regional games, right? New Hampshire going all the way to Montana State is beautiful. I think that's awesome. We'll still get regional games in the first round, and it makes sense. We just need to save a little bit of dollars. But can I say I'm just so happy the committee decided to do this, and the NCAA, the FCS decided to do 1 through 16 seeds. It makes it more fun. It really does.
At least they had to play Rhode Island, Villanova, Stony Brook. They played a Mama team that's been hot. Like they actually had to play. They played Harvard. So New Hampshire
There
actually
they
played-
go. UT
was in
Martin.
okay, I figured UT Martin was in. So this is we'll see what that means for Tennessee State.
I'm going to pick
so-
UT Martin.
Well, on that
in
last screen,
game.
it said Tennessee State was a lock. So
They were showing the matchups from yesterday, so I think they just were screwing around.
I like
so-
UT Martin in that game too. I really do. I like them.
if,
Yeah, this
if
could be a good
Tennessee
one.
State does get in, that's 3 teams from that split conference. That's
Yep.
probably 2 more than what we were expecting.
Yep.
Well, so Montana State has their possible opponents. It's going to be UT Martin going out to the cold, or it's going to be New Hampshire traveling all the way there.
Don't
And-
think either of them are competitive versus Montana State.
At all.
There's my question. Yep.
At all. Yeah. I think it'd be just like Montana State playing Drake. Like,
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be much of a difference.
yeah.
Well, let's see
So
who
we're just
Idaho's
gonna
gonna
line up
get
to
before
Idaho.
They get an
Let's see if they
opportunity.
We're gonna find the 9. Is this gonna
Let's
be
see if they
Richmond?
get screwed completely.
Yeah,
They already
this is
don't like
huge.
them in the seeding. Let's fuck them up. Sorry, language.
So if
Sorry, guys.
Richmond, yep, here. Okay,
it is.
so
That's
this is
that's a
to
tough
me,
game.
this is an inflection point because
Yeah.
this is where you regionality maybe see if a second SoCon team gets in.
Yeah.
We're going to see who goes there. Although this could be also Eastern Kentucky and do Richmond versus Richmond.
Can it be another CA team because they didn't play each other?
If they did not play them,
Right.
Well, let's just get. We need at least 3 more CAA teams. I'm hoping for in this playoff field.
At least
well, there's
17
going to
more.
be 2 more at least. So
The whole
at a minimum.
conference.
okay, we're going to
Not
find
one
out.
conference played another team.
Actually, taking their time to actually
Yep.
talk about these teams a little bit.
Roll
Richmond,
Richmond
going up
Spiders.
Idaho.
How do you feel about Richmond versus Idaho?
Yeah, that could be a huge one.
Idaho's
I-
finally healthy and
I think
Richmond's
that's a
solid.
sneaky good game. I think that's a sneaky good game.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see how well Richmond's defense would play against Idaho. I would
I
give
think
Richmond
Idaho
a fighting
fans are
chance.
a little bit pissed about this. You're-
They should be. This is
Very
not a good
hot
spot for them.
team coming in. I get again. They lost to Wofford at the beginning of the year.
And
That's
Richmond's
all.
opponent,
And then they
coming
just
up here.
ran through everyone else.
And
Lehigh.
Lehigh.
Oh.
So yeah,
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
So who is Villanova getting?
so I'm not going to.
I would have booked.
remotely-
I would have booked Lehigh at Villanova.
So we got
They're
2
70
Big
miles
Sky
apart.
versus CAA teams going in the second
Does this
round.
mean does this mean that Villanova's not getting a seed and that Delaware game didn't save them?
Could have been.
entirely
they haven't
possible.
played well. The eye test of Villanova is not good. So if they don't wind up in the top 16, I think I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Put in New Hampshire, put out them. I'm okay with it.
And that's what Andrew Markham is saying here. He's saying Nova's
saying
going
no.
to be out.
But Villanova
Out
won
of the
that
playoffs
game.
or out of the seeds, Andrew?
I
think they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're probably in the playoffs. I would say that. Good matchup for Lehigh. Is that a good matchup for them? Or Richmond going to be
No.
able to roll?
Richmond's
I think
gonna
Richmond rolls. It's
steam
a Patriot League preview for next year. I think Richmond rolls. I would give Lehigh a much better chance
Oh,
against
yeah.
Villanova.
Richmond's leaving, aren't they?
Yep.
They're going to
Kyler,
SoCon, right?
No, they're going to Patriot.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Kyler
Wow.
Terry Jarrett says top 3 Big Sky teams crammed into one part of the bracket. Oh, and
All right,
there's
Illinois-
Illinois
common.
State's at 12.
we get Illinois State at 12, possibly going to UC Davis. So
I might like
Honest-
Illinois State on that one.
would you really over UC Davis? Oh man,
We'll
That-
see.
That's more of a definer than Montana State versus like the SDSU, NDSU is like that just below, 2 versus 3 of the Valley and Big Sky. If that's the matchup, I think that would be very interesting.
I think it's a big drop off between the top 4 and the next tier. I
Mhm.
do think it's a big drop
Yeah,
off.
this is an inflection point here again too, because Illinois State getting the 12, I think is good. I do think without that being Villanova, I think Villanova is going on the road.
SEMO.
SEMO,
No seeded.
okay, no
That
seed
loss
in a home
hurts.
game. No
That
seed in a
loss
home
last night
game.
hurt.
So I get that. Okay, so they kind of didn't seed them, but they seeded them to a
True.
certain degree. That's
Yeah, but that's
really
not a team you
interesting.
wanted.
No.
So
No.
Illinois State, correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie, and for all of our over 650 people watching, SEMO will host Illinois State because Illinois State legitimately can't host that first round.
Correct. Based off what Craig and Sam found out that's going to be true. The Southeast
They
Missouri State
booked
will be
their
hosting
arena.
that.
Yeah.
And I will
Booked
tell
their
you,
little stadium for something else.
Paxton DeLaurent could win that game by himself if he needs to. Hopefully, they play a lot better than they have down the stretch. But that's going to be a really good game. I'm very intrigued by this game.
I like Jason Plunkett.
But I could see Illinois State kind of rolling here. All right, we're getting ready to find out the South Dakota portion. So who is going to be the 13?
I like Jason here. More untraditional matchups. This is loads of fun. Gives a lot of the matchups already are kind of pretty intriguing in terms of who plays who.
Yep.
I think we're going to learn who's going to win that bracket challenge.
This
maybe
is going to be one of the UAC teams, would be my guess.
Shout out Chris Pierce here, watching from Finland.
All the way from Finland. I like it.
Finland,
Welcome, Chris.
Whoop.
Tarleton State.
Tarleton. Wow.
Coming now we're probably looking at Montana maybe getting a 15.
Okay, so we're looking at probably Rhode Island at the 10. And Abilene Christian at the what's left, 14. Montana
14, 15.
Yeah, 14, 15 range is probably what you're looking at there.
Yep.
So,
because I don't think they're getting 11.
So who are they sending to Tarleton?
I do not see Tarleton State going to USD and being very competitive.
No, I don't think so.
No, because they do have a decent offense. They got a good back line on defense. Kayvon Britton will cause a few problems, but that South Dakota rush defense is no joke. I think South Dakota will win that game pretty easily. Tarleton's escaped a couple of times this year against Southeast Louisiana, against Southern Utah. Couldn't finish it off against the other team. Yeah, Drake.
Fine.
Drake. KPI loves Drake, and they get an opportunity to go see what they can do against Tarleton State. But South Dakota, that's a good draw for a 4 seed, I would say.
I actually think they have probably the easiest draw on that side of the bracket, so that's not too bad. I actually think New Hampshire would beat Tarleton. So I think Idaho got screwed the most. Now, they're an 8 seed, so they're supposed to have the hardest, but they got screwed, man. I think Richmond could beat Idaho.
Yeah. And I think South Dakota, I think they could do just fine going out to UC Davis. And I
think so.
They, to me, feel it. I hate to say chalk, but they're definitely not going to lose in the quarters. And
they're going to Bozeman.
Yeah. Especially if they host in that second or in the quarterfinals, because UC Davis were to get upset for some reason. Oh, man, that's going to be tough to go to Vermilion and beat them.
Richmond kind of got screwed, too. So let's say they beat Idaho, which they can. Then you got to travel all the way back to Bozeman.
Mm-hmm.
Richmond even got screwed.
I think at that point it might be fall break, so they might just well stay out there if that happens.
Yeah, I would. Enjoy the snow. Enjoy the Christmas. Have some good times.
That's right.
Captain 58, Tarleton getting a lot of love. Well, they want to be FBS, and ESPN loves the FBS, so they're gonna shout it out that way. They'll probably start talking Sac State here soon. Won't shock me.
Look at that. Did you see that banner? D1. It's not D1 AA. It's none of that. This is the top championship for the NCAA football.
Boom.
This is it. This is all it is.
Book it. Okay, so that on that side of the bracket, you kind of saw what Montana State and USD are going to face. Who are the threats? Who are the threats to those top ones, Jamie, that you saw? Idaho, Richmond's, UC Davis's, like, who is it?
I mean, obviously by the 9 seed, Richmond's the best team of that side that has to play this coming week. I think they're going to roll Lehigh. I think it's going to be a good game for a half, but I think Richmond pulls away there. Tarleton should roll Drake. I'm really looking forward to Illinois State SEMO. I think that's a really good game. Regionality, that actually makes a ton of sense too.
Yeah,
they're not that far apart, so it's going to be a really interesting game. But I think Richmond's the only team that has a chance to beat the team in front of them on this side of the bracket in the second round.
I could see both 2 out of the 3 Big Sky teams losing, to be honest. I think UC Davis has shown glimpses where they're really dominant. Then they've shown glimpses where they could be very competitive versus bad teams, right?
Yeah.
They almost lost Sac State last night. Now, I get that's a rivalry game. But then they should have lost Portland State.
They escaped Portland State. They escaped Southern Utah.
And I think Idaho got a really rough draw to where, I think you could see potentially 2 Big Sky teams losing their first game. I think that is a reality. Now, I wouldn't be shocked if both Big Sky teams win. They should win, but I would not be shocked if we saw, UC Davis, maybe slump, maybe Land Larson has one of his bad games all season. If they do, they're not winning, right? And then, Idaho. We'll have to see. They still have offensive issues. And there was a comment that said, can Richmond afford Bozeman? Dude, Richmond can buy
Dude,
Bozeman.
yeah.
Richmond's one of the richest schools outside of the Ivies in the FCS. They could buy Bozeman.
A lot of sweater vest. A lot of sweater vest.
Yeah, they got a lot of cash there. And
Don't they
shout
have
out
like
to
a
Jim.
$2 billion endowment, something like that.
It's massive. Yeah. Shout out to Jim Poppin too, by the way. I misspoke. USD as the 4 would host UC Davis. I had misspoke and saw the numbers wrong. Apologies. Community college education. It's okay. And UC Davis would in fact travel to USD. I really like USD's corner, knowing they'll be at home. I think it's gonna be tough for them to get beat. And that's not even recent. Yeah.
The only thing that, like, if UC Davis gets past that first round, again, playing in a dome, I think, is just better. You don't have to deal with the elements. So you're having a California school go to 70-degree weather, and they have a very potent passing offense. Mile Hastings, he's not going to have any wind that's trying to stop him from throwing the ball accurately. Then you have Land Larson, he's not going to have to deal with any cold weather. So, I mean, I think playing in Vermilion actually gives UC Davis a better chance to upset South Dakota than South Dakota going to Davis. I think South Dakota going to Davis, it just depends on the weather, could actually beat UC Davis more than maybe UC Davis going to South Dakota. Does that sound weird?
No.
I think the domes protect people's ability to play their own game.
Yeah. If the crowd's crazy enough, South Dakota's going to have to fill that dome. They're going to have to get
here's the other
They'll be
side.
fine. They just beat North Dakota State. They're filling that dome.
Here's your 14 coming up. And Montana. It's in.
Wow.
R.I.P. the Grizz.
Going to have to come to Brookings if they beat whoever they see coming up to them.
And even if South Dakota State should not be worried about that, but they're already probably angry. They're the 3. Seeing the Grizz, just the fact that it's the Grizz name, they're going to be really mad that the Grizz are behind them.
Just rematch the title game from last year.
Yep.
But this time 100%. In Brookings. Might be a bigger spread in score.
Yeah, I don't think I know SDSU fans will be upset about it, but there's not much of a threat there of them going off the Brookings. So the Grizz in Brookings, says Seth Meyer.
Right,
it'll be a fun game. You'll get a lot of fans.
Who's going to Wa Grizz? This is going to be one of the bubble teams, I think.
This is going to be interesting to see who gets the blessing to go to quite the home field advantage. Tennessee State. There we go. In the field.
Okay. Tennessee State's in the field. I think that probably bursts the bubble of Southeast Louisiana and Southern Utah.
Yeah.
Wow. Good for them going off to Montana.
And again, 9 wins. That's awesome to see. Yeah, so
congrats
I like
to them. So they're definitely valuing the wins overall here.
Not strength of schedules match. Because this is now the second time.
I'm thinking we're gonna have probably Northern Arizona playing at Abilene Christian, would be my guess here. I don't think we're getting a second Southern Conference team.
Don't think so.
Yeah, Chuck Burton's comment here. 3 OVC.
Yeah.
Big South. Wow. Quite the thing.
That also might have taken that 5th CAA team as well.
Yeah, I think Stony Brook's out.
Yeah.
So where does Villanova
honestly
come in?
What about the SoCon topic here?
I think they're unfortunately a 1 bid league. I think that's what this is telling me.
Crazy. That is crazy that's how it's going to go.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not mad at Tennessee State getting in.
No, that's the thing. Is anyone mad? That's my question to you two. Is anybody mad right now of who is in? I don't think there's the shocker like Chattanooga was last year, right?
No, I mean, it was a big win yesterday, right?
Villanova,
best team in their conference.
Villanova did get the
conference.
Interesting. All right, who's going to Villanova?
Villanova hits there against Incarnate Word.
11.
Shout out Andrew Markham. He was like, he thought they'd be out of the seeding, which who knows how these things are supposed to play out.
So Rhode Island is going to be the 10.
Baby.
So
those Wildcats are going to get an opportunity to see if they can make it down to San Antonio. Beautiful place to play a game, by the way. Fighting Eddie George is 100%.
We haven't seen Rhode Island yet, so Rhode Island.
We're going to be the 10.
CCSU coming up here. James,
it's kind of got it. Well, I can still see that being the Rhode Island.
Yeah.
So we'll see here when it comes out.
Spreading them out with the CAA has worked out well for them. Andrew Markham, wow, that's crazy for them to get that kind of
Eastern
love.
Kentucky is in. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, Southern Utah's not in.
No, they're not.
I stood up for Eastern Kentucky on that show. I'm glad they're in. They finished hot. That's a deserving team to be in the field. That's a tough draw for Incarnate Word. That's not the easiest thing. to either play Villanova or Eastern Kentucky. That's going to be a fun matchup.
I think
too.
Incarnate Word can beat Nova, and I definitely think they beat Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah,
I actually don't hate it.
I think that's a good draw for Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah, I think Villanova is kind of beatable.
Yeah, to me, man, I'm already thinking about the bracket challenge. And I'm like, this first round's going to be a little difficult. It's going to be tough. I think we're going to think we know, but I don't know how much we do.
This
Hey, we
should
had like
be Rhode
3
Island CCSU here.
We had 3 questions about Mercer and thoughts on Mercer. So what do we think about Mercer as their matchups show up here, Jamie? With Rhode Island as the 10 seed.
It's a tough game.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is going to be Central Connecticut. I think Mercer moves on from there. I think Rhode Island will win. Let's see.
So who's the last bubble?
Abilene Christian's got to be the 15, right?
Yeah, I meant the last bubble. Does NAU get it?
That would be,
CCSU,
yes.
Stoney
I think
get
it's
it?
down to it's
CCSU
be,
has to hit. CCSU has to hit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
CCSU is going to play Rhode Island right here.
Let me see.
They got an easy first round draw.
Yeah, I mean, who's left from the bubble? Southern Utah, Chattanooga, Western Carolina, Northern Arizona.
And Seth Meyer says it comes down to NAU and SUU. So here we go.
Yeah, I think it does.
Future CUST.
Well, which tells me it's going to be Northern Arizona because it can't be Southern Utah at Abilene Christian. They played, so unfortunately,
Ooh,
Northern
Jamie
Arizona.
with the IQ.
And again, Southern Utah doesn't deserve it at all. I'm just saying that they don't. You can't lose Idaho State and only have 7 wins. That's embarrassing.
So Central Connecticut State
and how they played yesterday, they don't even deserve.
They didn't play well yesterday. No,
Jesus Christ.
They were a bubble team. They played themselves to the bubble. They're one of those teams that needs to learn how to win. Unfortunately, they didn't get a couple of those. If they beat Tarleton in overtime like they should have, they started slow in a lot of games. This is not anything that hasn't been said out there before. They start slow a lot.
Jamie Kylor got a shout out here. We've got a few people in here with lots of question marks about CCSU. They're an auto bid, guys. CCSU won their conference. They're an auto bid. That's why they're in at 7-5. I also love Find a Cure. He's a CCSU fan. Let's go CCSU. We are going to lose.
Yeah. So NAU versus Abilene Christian.
I believe this is going to be Northern Arizona unless it's a Southern Conference team. So it's either Northern Arizona, Western Carolina.
Where do they value Southeastern Louisiana? They didn't play ACU, did they?
Yeah. If Southeast Louisiana makes it in, I will be extremely shocked. I think they're going for teams that had at least 8 wins.
Yeah.
I think
we've seen them throw away strength of schedule before.
We got a chance for one shocking moment because I don't think anything is shocking up to this point. This all makes sense to me.
Idaho State.
Who is going to be the final in? And maybe we'll get a reveal of the last 4 out because that's always telling to see. Oh man,
Duquesne's getting in, baby.
Put them in the field.
NCCU.
Oh, they're gonna give us this sort of intrigue here.
I think it is going to go to NAU, but I don't think
it's NAU, and I don't think they deserve it at all.
Stony Brook.
I mean, I would put Stony Brook in over NAU, to be honest.
Hey,
Stony
Blue
Brook
Blood,
has 9 wins.
Zach McKinnell, 0 surprises.
Yeah.
Committee's got it right so far.
It is Northern Arizona.
NAU.
Yep.
Going the chance to play the North Dakota State Bison. So
yeah, I don't like Northern Arizona as a playoff team.
Their resume just stinks. And they played a D2 team.
Yeah, that's just that's the biggest miss. I thought it was probably going to happen.
My biggest thing
I don't think it's right.
I do think if they played Davis and Montana State, they lose. So then they're a 6-6 team, and they're not even in the discussion. This is why Big Sky, Missouri Valley, C8 needs to get rid of a few teams.
Yep.
Because NAU, the last 2 teams they made the playoffs, last 2 times, they avoided the top teams in the conference. So it's
Ocean Poets
only how NAU is ever getting in.
Was that the last of the picks? Yes, it is. The playoff field is set. And I am going to hop on Twitter here, and let's see if I can get a full look at the bracket for us because
right there.
Moving video.
Should have screenshot.
Oh, don't worry. Shout out YouTube TV.
There you go. That is a beautiful looking bracket.
Password to get into my YouTube TV is playoffs. Password is playoffs. So
you're gonna get so many emails that people are trying.
Oh, it's gonna be great. Yep.
It is a cute looking bracket. I like it.
Okay. We have our bracket here. We've got things squared away. And I'm going to give an opportunity. We have our Taco King, who's going to come on for a 2-minute talk about the Dakotas as one special guest. I'm going to pop off quick, get him linked up. Meanwhile, I'll have you gentlemen discuss what you think about this bracket, starting with our good friend, the man, the...
What's up, guys?
All right, Ref. You haven't
What's
been
up,
off
Ref?
here, so give us your overall reaction to the bracket now that you see the whole thing.
I'm not surprised that NAU got in. I said last week on the challenge that if they won, they would get in over a team like Chatty or somebody else. So
which I thought
they're the weak. I mean, they're probably the weakest one in. That's at large. But no, I'm not surprised by this. Other than that,
like I said last week, the committee's not going to leave a 6-2 Big Sky team out. They're just not. But when you do a deep dive into their actual resume, dude, it's not good.
No,
I mean, it's really not.
good.
Eastern sucks. We lost to Drake, and we are their best win. I mean, that is a reality. And I think if you're in the playoffs, if you're not in a one-bid league, you have to at least beat another team from the playoffs.
100%.
I do think that should be a requirement.
Yeah.
They have no bad losses. Incarnate Word, Idaho, Montana, and then who was their other loss?
For
I'm trying to think.
I think who it was for NAU. Yeah.
Yeah, I know they lost to Arizona in a close game. It was actually a good game versus Arizona.
Yep,
so it's competitive. But who's their fourth loss?
Cameron says, I'm going to put this up because it says no Chattanooga is crazy, and it's really not. It's
not that crazy.
It's not that crazy. So not. This is the problem.
Carolina and Chattanooga. I mean, they've got left out because they had 7 wins, the same as Southern Utah. So I think it's total wins at this point. I think at the top, the D2 mattered. At the bottom, the D2 didn't.
Yeah, like like none of this is a surprise to me. NDSU being a 2 seed isn't a surprise to me. There's a lot of debate last night on that. Like, I mean, none of the bracket actually plays out kind of like I thought it would.
Yeah.
So like, to me, there's no shock except
besides Idaho. I do think Idaho kind of got screwed.
I think they got absolutely screwed.
I'm laughing on the inside because I have no love for Idaho. I love Chris Hammond, but I want all of the Big Sky teams to lose in the first round. To be honest.
Yeah, they got shorted on their seed for sure.
They did. But I like.
Well, there's a loss to Incarnate Word was the other one loss.
NAU. I already said that. So yeah. My bad. I was counting wrong.
Yeah.
Idaho and Montana.
Yeah. So they have only good losses, right? But again, you need to have a good win. And when you avoid the 2 top teams in your own conference, literally 2 top seeds, we can all guess most likely you would have lost to them. I mean, that's just a reality. They would have been heavy favorites, Montana State or UC Davis over NAU. So now you're looking at a 6-6 team. I mean, that's the reality. So I get they were getting in. I said it last week. Jamie, you were crazy thinking Southern Utah would get in over NAU. The logic doesn't make sense. But the better logic is both of them don't deserve to be in.
Yeah, and
that's actually the point I was trying to make. Is I thought Southern Utah had a better resume if you're looking at the types of wins, and that they weren't getting in, so the others shouldn't. So
that Idaho State loss makes it worse.
It's bad.
I agree with
it's bad.
And I'll say the biggest problem too, especially for teams like Southeastern Louisiana, SUU, NC Central to a point, Stony Brook, is there needed to be more chaos yesterday, and there was too much chaos on the top side of the bracket versus where it actually needed to happen was at the bottom.
Yep.
And so it sucks for them because they all had good enough years to make it in a regular enough wins in a regular 11 game season, but just not this year. So it sucks. I know there's gonna be a lot of disappointed fans, but at the same time, Southeast Louisiana stopped scheduling 2 FBS schools.
Can you put that Seth's comment up? I think that's pretty cool. So if any of you guys don't know, because we're kind of, I hate to say it because we're all old men, but we're kind of the new school when we brought in the FCS Fans Nation. But like the AGS, any given Saturday was us prior, and that's pretty impressive. They nailed the top 9 through 16 perfectly. I don't think we would have.
No,
we did.
So I mean, that's pretty freaking cool. And I want to give the AGS a little bit of love because I feel like it's something we all kind of look over. They were some of the pioneers of trying to develop FCS fans, and I think it's cool to give them some love.
They had one of the first podcasts too. They used to do the FCS Wedge show.
Yep, by Chris, baby.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. I think I'm gonna jump off of here.
Okay, cool.
It's been a good time.
Yeah, we can keep talking.
In Taco, we'll touch base. I know we'll be watching games and podcasting here next Sunday.
Yeah. Love you.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Jamie Williams, ladies and gentlemen, rolling out from our live stream, leaving you with me, Kylor, and the Rev before we roll into a fun Thanksgiving week. That being said, we have about 10 minutes left where we're going to just talk about this bracket, answer the fans' questions that are coming through. But before we do that, He's going to be up for about 120 seconds because Taco King put a lot of tacos and a lot of bets and things down on Facebook and Twitter, and he wanted his 2 minutes of reaction. And all his taco bets were basically based around numbers 2, 3, 4 seeds. Of course, he's a diehard NDSU fan, former player as well. So we're going to bring Taco King on for his 2 minutes of joy, and then he's going to bounce out as we finish off this episode. Taco King on the show, all revved up. Away you go, sir. What do you have for us?
NDSU got screwed. They should have been the 1 seed. I don't know how they got it wrong.
On.
Absolutely, completely bad.
Come on.
No, okay. At the end of the day, no, they got it absolutely right. Montana State was without a question the 1 seed. But then you go from there, you lay the resumes down. You lay them out without a name out on them. I was having trouble the other night looking at them going, all right, where can we do this? But at the end of the day, USD with only 1 good ranked win, 8 wins, you slot them into the 4 seed. After that, it became pretty simple to put where NDSU and SDSU go. NDSU trumped SDSU in almost every single category when you laid it out. So at the end of the day, they got it right. And I got some more tacos from SDSU fans. And, you know, a lot of people got to eat some crow. I thought I actually might be eating a lot of crow. Nah, not today. Every team's got to have somebody to hate besides Kylor. So I'm joining them.
Brian,
Welcome to the team.
I'm going to give you this moment, and you said 3 years ago, you said in Frisco, you're like, SDSU is going to win this game. You said last year, SDSU is going to win this game. You've given the Bunnies a lot of credit quietly, even though publicly you like to cause chaos and stir the pot. I love it. But seriously, your take from Bison fans, are Mark Gronowski and those Bunnies going to come in and get revenge in a beautiful way for the marker and walk into Frisco? Or what do you feel about if that's the semifinal matchup?
You know, Matt, me and you talked earlier, and I agree with you. I would rather have them in Fargo than in Frisco because you don't get a 50-50 fan split in Fargo. It's going to be 1,000 SDSU fans, maybe, if NDSU lets them have any tickets. I mean, let's start with this. Matt Larson was the chair. Screw the other teams. It was proven. Chairs matter. Okay, maybe not. But on it. But screw them. Don't give them any tickets, even though there's certain people on the SDSU side that are great friends. And, you know, every once in a while, even a player for SDSU has a really good family in the Gronkowski family. So, you know, I think coming to Fargo, I would lean NDSU again, honestly, but I'm not going to say it's more than a 55-45 game. I truly think, yes, they can come in and win. They don't like each other. At the end of the day, these two teams do not like each other. They both know how each other plays, and they both know each other's tendencies. So the edge I'm going to give the NDSU having home field, but it's not going to be a big edge.
All right, Taco King, thank you so much for your time. Go enjoy those tacos, and thanks for always providing us bets. We'll see you in 6 quick weeks, sir. We'll see you down there in Frisco.
See you boys later.
All right, gentlemen, let's get some fan questions in here. Better to play the Jacks in Fargo than Frisco. That's a hot take, says Scott. Well, the Jacks are 1-0 in Frisco against NDSU. They didn't really have a lot of problems down there. All right, gentlemen, and shout out to these AGS fans who are popping in here and actually giving us a little bit of love. Like I said, maybe 20 years from now, guys, we'll be watching some advanced podcasts from some young bucks about the FCS. They'll be like, there were these old guys back in the day.
Yeah, they'll be on Meta.
They'll be on Meta. All right, gentlemen, good stuff from the Taco King, says Jim Poppin. We got about 6 minutes. Any question? We will call this the quick hit segment. We're going to give you guys about 6 minutes here to say any question out there, and we will answer it about the playoff field, about what we're seeing for this bracket, matchups, Frisco alignment, the fun stuff we're going to be doing in Frisco. And Colby Peterson starts it. Is only one SoCon team in while 3 OVC Big South teams in Justified?
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Why is that?
Look at where they finished out. SEMO up until the end of the year played pretty well and dominant. UT Martin's got the FBS win over Kennesaw, which honestly some folks might disagree and say, hey, Kennesaw's not that great of an FBS team, but it still is an FBS win. And then Tennessee State played. I mean, they almost beat NDSU. They had a hell of a year. So honestly, yes. The problem is you see teams that decide to just the conferences that decide to basically eviscerate themselves. And that's what the SoCon did. Now their champion's a true champion, but yeah, honestly, the 3 Big South OVC, I think it's 100% justified versus more out of the SoCon.
I think if you line up 1 to 3 SoCon, 1 to 3 Big South OVC, I think SoCon wins 2 or 3 of them. That I do think that's just reality.
Yeah, you could never know. Kendall here, Taco King wants to look at resumes, not names. How many times was NDSU seeded because of name? I always challenge this just very calmly to say, look back on NDSU every year of the seeds they got, to include 2015 when they were the 3 seed. They had 2 losses. They weren't the top 2 seed. But the years they were the top 2 seeds, you might find one year where they had 2 losses. All those other years, they would lose to SDSU but beat an FBS team like Iowa. So it's even years they didn't win the championship, just the resume spoke to it. So
yeah, they've earned their seeds.
At the end of the day, they kind of earn those, and away we go. Looking down here as well, who is your favorite dark horse team likely to get hot, says Chris Pierce. Kylor, what do you think? You like that Richmond. You like that?
I do. I actually kind of like it. And I think the left side of the bracket's a little more difficult than the right side. I don't think anyone's getting past. I mean, Rhode Island, I think, could beat Mercer. I think that's actually going to be a good game. I'll probably still lean towards Mercer. That's kind of the only upset I see on that side of the board. So yeah, I guess I'll just go with Richmond. If Richmond can play well, and I think they beat Lehigh, I think Idaho has shown some flurries of where maybe the offense isn't as consistent. I'm not as big of a Jack Lane fan as all the Vandals are. I don't think he's that much better than the second tier option. So I think if Richmond can play their game, they could get hot, but I don't see them getting past the second round. I mean, I don't see them getting past the quarters anyway. So, yeah.
Very cool. Kyler Elliott, what's the highest seed you could see making a run? They're not a seed, but they're hosting, so I'm going to go with that. I like SEMO to go and beat Illinois State. I like SEMO competitively against UC Davis. And then on the other side of the bracket, I would say, honestly, I don't hate Villanova, again, having a shot in terms of going and playing Incarnate Word if they beat Eastern Kentucky or so I like that 11 seed Villanova and SEMO and Illinois State. I'll take the unseeded team there as a possibility to move and go. So Daniel Rodriguez. Oh, I like this. If you have to bet, who is your favorite to win it all? So this is an interesting question. Let's put the bet at something you are okay losing. Let's say it's $100. It's a $100 bet. You're not betting the house. $100, Kyler. Who would you bet on winning it?
North Dakota State.
What about you, Rev?
Man, I would actually put it out on Montana State. I think they're a different team than we saw in Frisco a couple years ago. I think they've built a bigger team. We kind of talked about this, privately. So, and they're playing really good football. So I would put it there. I would safely bet $100 on them.
Okay. For me, yeah, I guess NDSU because they got the home seed. Otherwise, I would have probably picked South Dakota State. Who is your dark horse? Says Brandon Owens. Brandon, CUSA champions, great friend. We love you so much. Heart, wish you were in Frisco. Who is the dark horse, guys? Rev, who do you got?
Oh, man, honestly, there's not much that I think is truly a dark horse. But if I was going to look at a team that wasn't a top 8 seed that would make it the furthest, it is Richmond or it is potentially Villanova. But I don't see anybody outside the top 4 making it into Frisco. So that's the furthest I would go.
Okay. Kyler, dark horse. You got one?
Yeah, I don't really think there is a real dark horse, but I would say Richmond, Nova, and Rhode Island all have the best opportunities to win their seeded game. Maybe even, Illinois State, SEMO. I mean, those are all the teams that I think can actually win their first or their second round game.
Very cool. Robert Bemmer, do the Dakota teams have the defenses of the past 5 years? I don't think so. Montana State will run over them this year. I am a diehard Bison fan, Robert. I could buy that from a NDSU Bison perspective. The Bison are very injured and their depth is bad in the secondary. So Malot's going to get opportunities. And is the front 7 as strong as it is in the past? No. They're better than last year's defense. But yes, I could see Montana State doing well against them. I don't know if I
gave up 78 points in their conference.
I was just going to say, that was my second point. I don't buy that for South Dakota State. And honestly, USD, that run defense for USD is really good. If you guys didn't watch the USD NDSU game, Cam Miller's the only reason NDSU moved that ball because they could not run the ball to save their life, which was their strategy at the end. But that's a different point. So
I think MSU can run much harder against South Dakota than NDSU can.
Yeah.
But
Jason Plotkin, did McNeese not make the field? How'd that happen? We just don't know. We don't know. Why the doubt over Mercer beating Rhode Island? Why is that doubt there, Kylor Neal?
I mean, you're playing in a one bid league. It's just no. I think Rhode Island's actually played really good football for a main part of the year. And when you're looking at non-seeds, right? I mean, Rhode Island won 10 games. Richmond won 10 games. Those are just right behind the seeds. So I think a 7-10 is very close. I don't think it means Rhode Island's better than Mercer or Mercer sucks by any means, but I think 7-10 is an extremely close, almost 50-50 game. So, I mean, that's kind of more of the lines where I'm thinking where I go, yeah, that's a close game. Anything can happen on that one.
NDSU can't tackle, says Bill Dent. Yeah, Bill, you're right. I don't know what's up with the tackling with NDSU, but apparently that's gone out the window. It used to be their strength. Jordan Thule says SDSU defense is elite. Damn right it is. That's a great defense. And if they beat NDSU in the semis, it will absolutely be a result of NDSU just not being able to move that ball. Will the Oats be cat slayers, says Colby Peterson. Colby, I hope we see you in Frisco, buddy. Rev, any chance? South Dakota? Montana State?
I will say I was one of the people this year who doubted how far South Dakota could go, and I was 100% wrong and actually made a donation to Alex's Limited Stand because of that, to Aiden Bauman's thing. But honestly, in Bozeman, I don't know. I think Bozeman is one hell of a home field advantage to have, especially in December. I think it'll be a hell of a game. They could potentially be cat slayers. Everybody can be a slayer, but honestly, it's really hard to look against Montana State. But I wouldn't be surprised if South Dakota managed to do it.
Absolutely.
I don't think the game's going to be that close.
We'll see. Jason Plotkin asking for Brandon, who has the best band in the playoff field. I haven't seen it. I don't know. And correct me if I'm wrong. And I do know this first part. Tennessee State, HBCU school. There's no way that's not the best band. And I'm sorry if that's a stereotype, but it's a positive one because the HBCU bands are freaking awesome. So I guarantee it's Eddie George's Tennessee State. I'd be shocked if it's not. So depends on the weather conditions in Bozeman, says Garrett Meyer. All right, guys, just a few more questions here. Who's the biggest disappointment this season that you expected in the playoffs when the season started? Wow, what a question. Kylor Elliott, this is awesome. We get to eat some crow. I'll even bring Taco King in here for his in our final minutes. Rev, what do you think? Who's
Central Arkansas? Central Arkansas is the biggest damn disappointment this year. Central Arkansas completely crapped the bed to finish out the season. The team that everybody thought was going to win, the UAC, the team that they're like, oh, they have got Will McElvain, they got Shunderick Powell, they got Darius Hale, and they did what they do every year is they completely crapped the bed and missed the playoffs. So yeah, UCA, you're never getting my love and support again, and your field still sucks.
And Kylor Neal, what do you got? Who's the biggest disappointment this season from where we're at
that was
now?
a really good one by Rev, but I'm actually going to go Southern Illinois. I get injuries happened, right? And it's a completely different team after injuries happen, but that's why you need to have depth. Because there was a team, and again, Matt's very aware of this. In 2018, Eastern lost 11 of their starters and still made a run to Frisco. So sometimes you have to have depth, and unfortunately, Southern Illinois, once their top tier players left, it was a completely different team. They became one of the worst in the nation. So I kind of feel Southern Illinois they went and beat Incarnate Word, and it wasn't that close. And now they're one of the worst teams in the nation. So that's bad.
I'll do a cop-out since you stole my SIU, but I'll just say SoCon going to SoCon. I mean, take your pick. If you've got one team from the SoCon in the playoffs, that to me is wild and bonkers. So I'm definitely going to go that route. Taco King, who's the biggest disappointment?
I'll go the United States Postal Service. Top 10 teams start the season, and UND, you indeed. Sucked.
Yeah.
Colby Peterson actually says the Weber State Wildcats, which is
100%. Weber sucks this year. So bad.
Yeah.
You feel bad for the USPS because they got that Bo Belquist on there who I played with his dad, and he is an absolute stud. But USPS continues to USPS and get high rankings and then suck.
Jordan, we improved year over year. What are you talking about? We have one more win, baby. We're a 4-win team now. Let's go. Good. No, that was very underperforming. Our out-of-conference schedule is weak. So,
very cool. Well, what we'll do here is we'll finally get our playoff bracket off the screen. And, guys, we're going to give one more plug here to the FCS Playoff Bracket Challenge. Again, The link is in Facebook and the link is in Twitter. So you just look for that. And the reality is you just have to pay 99 cents to compete for a $50 Visa gift card. There's only about 80 people in the bracket challenge right now, so your odds are really good. Combined with that is the admins and podcasters, they're just not eligible to win the prize. So you actually have a really good shot to win that bracket challenge. And it's fun to see how well you could do. I think our winners the last couple of years, they missed like 2 or 3 picks. So I'm really interested to see who comes up on top of that. Again, you can DM me or reach out to me if you want to be more involved. That stuff will be posting later tonight. So, gentlemen, heck of a playoff field, heck of a live episode, with Facebook even restricting us, which brings in, we got restricted on 20,000 people. Still 500 plus views coming in for this live show. Really think that's outstanding. And any final thoughts as we go around the bend of what we should expect from the playoffs? Taco King, final thoughts before we roll.
I think the committee did well. Usually everybody wants to say the committee sucks or does this wrong or that. But again, I think they proved they laid it out how it should be. The one team that got screwed is probably the Potatoes. Sorry, Chris Hammond. Outside of that, unfortunately, I'm going to say the top 4 teams are probably going to be in the semi. I usually wouldn't say 1, 2, 3, and 4 are going to be there, but I'll bet somebody tacos if they want to take it.
There you go. Taco King's ready to put more tacos on the line. The Rev, final thoughts.
Yeah, I realized I confused ETSU and Tennessee State when I was talking about stuff on my bad, but that's my only mess today. But no, everybody wants to hate the committee. The committee nailed it. I'm not going to lie to you. With the exception of maybe NAU getting in, the committee nailed everything else in the bracket. So people are going to be mad if they're South Dakota State fans. You know what? Go to Fargo, beat North Dakota State. It's going to be more impressive than you beating them at home. And let's just be 100% honest there. But playoffs are always fun. You never know what's going to happen. And Frisco's only 6 weeks away, which is going to be awesome. Can't wait to see all your beautiful faces there. Can't wait to get my cuddle time with Brian. Looking forward to all this.
It's going to be fun. Kylor Neal, final thoughts.
No, I don't agree with Dustin that said the committee nailed everything. I think there's definitely a few things they missed pretty heavily on. I think Idaho got screwed, and I hate Idaho. I think they got screwed. I think there were some misses. So at the end of the day, win your games, right? Don't get injured. Play healthier. Build more depth. It is what it is, right? The beautiful thing about this playoffs is, guess what? We're going to find out who the real champion is. Every single conference gets an opportunity if they want one. And that's a beautiful thing. So win your conference if you want a better seed. And again, just beat the teams in front of you. If you're complaining, it is what it is. Yeah.
There you go.
I was saying, can I say that I said that just to make Kylor say something nice about Idaho? Because I'm in the process of writing like a Hallmark Christmas movie, but it's about Kylor in the Big Sky, where Kylor is going to go back to Washington, fall back in love with the Big Sky, and then he's going to befriend somebody like Chad Myros from the Missouri Valley, who may be Santa Claus. Like, it's just going to be one of those.
I love the Big Sky Conference because I think the logo's sweet, and I think the commissioner is the best commissioner in all of ball, and I think our social media teams are the best, especially at the FCS level, and it's not even close. I just don't like any team in the Big Sky besides mine. So if we get rid of everyone in the Big Sky and it's just my team, I think the Big Sky is the coolest conference of all time. So,
and Kylor, that comment is perfect because you said if you get rid of every other team and it's just mine, one team is going to lay claim to that exact comment as we move forward in the playoffs. We're down to 24. We're heading to the final 2, and we will hidey-ho, tiptoe on down to Frisco. We'll see you guys down there. Thanks for joining us on the FCS Fans Nation podcast. We'll catch you after Thanksgiving. Boom. Thank you for listening to the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Make sure to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe on YouTube. To listen ad-free and enjoy many other perks, join FCS Gold for only 99 cents a month by using the link in the description below. Make sure to follow FCS Fans Nation on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for listening to the premier podcast for FCS football.